I always get it wrong. Hi guys, welcome to the Tuesday Ice Cream. Hope you're all very well. Hope you had a nice weekend and you're ready for more craziness this week because there's a lot of crazy this week happening. I hope my microphone isn't too high. Let me know in the comments if it is. So what we're going to talk about tonight, of course, what's happening with Donald Trump. Yes, Donald Trump is abandoning Europe, it seems. We'll talk a little bit about Kemi Badenoch as well. The COVID bill has come in and it's a lot of money. Angela Rayner making a comeback. Andy Burnham also potentially being the next leader of the Labour Party. And I wanted to cover a story on Nigel Farage as well. So I hope you're all very well. Crazy is the new channel. Crazy is the new normal, yes. It's definitely crazy. And we haven't even got to Liz Truss yet. So anyway, so I wanted to start with this story here, of course, which is the big one of this week, where Donald Trump is talking about Europe, talking about abandoning Europe and Ukraine and a lot of all that good stuff. So let's begin.
Thank you so much for joining the conversation.
Thank you.
So Politico has named you as the most influential person shaping Europe as part of our annual Politico 28 list. Past names that have topped the list include President Zelensky, Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni, and President Viktor Orban. This year, Politico broke precedent to recognize an American for the first time in the history of P28. And sir, there is no question that you are having a seismic impact on the continent and its politics. One of the most pressing issues in Europe right now is the war between Russia and Ukraine. Your team has been going back and forth.
I wouldn't say one, I would say the most.
The most, you're right. Your team has been going back and forth between Putin and Zelensky with various drafts of a peace deal.
It's not that they have been going back between Zelensky and Putin. It's no. It's been Putin provides the plan or the solution, and then Trump presents it to Zelensky. And when Zelensky says no, Trump criticizes Zelensky. You never see any criticism directed at the good friend Putin.
The country right now is in the stronger negotiating position.
Well, there can be no question about it. It's Russia. It's a much bigger country. It's a war that should have never happened, frankly.
This is going to be... We have to cover this because Donald Trump has so much influence. The United States has so much influence over NATO, over the future of the world. So we have to cover this. And he's starting off by saying, yeah, Russia is in a stronger position. Why is Russia in a stronger position? Because it's a big country or a bigger country. Yes, it's a huge country, but its GDP is about the same as Spain. So we're not talking about a strong economy. Trump could easily come out and say, actually, neither are in a strong position because Putin is on his knees. His army has been completely destroyed, more or less, and he's drafting in people from North Korea. He's handing out contracts to mercenaries from Central Africa to come to Ukraine to fight on his behalf because his army is pretty much spent.
It wouldn't have happened if I were president, and it didn't happen for...
Okay, it was happening when you were president. You could have easily said, when you were president, to stop following the annexation of Crimea, you could have sent US forces there, or you could have supported Ukraine in kicking the Russians out of Crimea, but you decided not to. So when he constantly talked about it wouldn't have started if I was president, it was already ongoing when you were president, and you did nothing about it.
4 years. I watched that taking place, and I said, wow, they're going to cause some problems here. And it started, and it could have evolved into World War III, frankly. I think it's probably not going to be happening now. I think if I weren't president, you could have had World War III. I think you would have had...
He's just regurgitating the Putin talking points. How many times did Putin talk about, if Europe gets involved or NATO gets involved, it's going to be World War III?
A much bigger problem than you have right now. But right now it's a big problem. It's a big problem for Europe, and they're not handling it well.
Last night you said that you weren't sure if President Zelensky was fine with the most recent proposal, that he isn't ready. I was hearing from your advisors around Thanksgiving that they thought this thing might be wrapped up by the end of the holiday, but it's still not done. Is Zelensky responsible for the stalled progress, or what's going on there?
Well, he's got to read the proposal. He hadn't he hasn't read it yet.
The most recent draft.
That's as of yesterday.
What do you mean he hasn't read the proposal? Of course he's read it. Does anyone honestly believe that Trump actually read it? I don't think Trump read it. I don't think Trump really reads a lot. So I don't buy for a second that Trump actually read it. I believe Zelensky read it because it's important to him. It's not important to Donald Trump.
Today. And maybe he's read it over the night. It would be nice if he would read it. You know, a lot of people are dying, so it would be really good if he'd read it. His people loved the proposal. They really liked it.
No, they don't. It's about giving away territory that Russia hasn't even annexed yet, or attempted to annex. It's about giving away territory that is currently in the hands of Ukraine. Why would the Ukrainians be happy about that? He's lying once again. That's all that Trump can do, is lie, lie, lie.
Lieutenants, his top people, they liked it. But they said he hasn't read it yet.
No. What they've said is, we welcome Donald Trump's support here. We welcome Donald Trump presenting something. But they don't like the actual deal that you're offering, because it's not. It's a deal that was written by the Russians. Even the translators who were looking at it were going, "Hey, wait a minute! This was actually written in Russian." Like the Russian experts in in Washington were looking at this and said, "This was actually written by the Russians. It wasn't written by the Trump administration."
I think he should find time to read it.
Is it time for Ukraine to hold an election, do you think?
I really hate this journalist. She's not a quality journalist. What she's doing is she's just regurgitating his talking point. These are softball questions. These are like taking Donald Trump's talking points and repeating them to him. Donald Trump has been demanding an election in Ukraine. Why would Ukraine have an election? They're in the middle of a frigging war. Brian, thanks so much for that super chat. It looks like the orange makeup. It looks like orange makeup, but it's actually the contents of Putin's bowels. As you've mentioned before, thanks, Brad, it's a bit like the human centipede. It's a short centipede, but it's still a centipede. Thanks for that. Yes, it definitely looking like that. And this journalist, regurgitating Trump's own talking points back to him.
Yeah, I think so. It's been a long time. It hasn't been doing...
Because he doesn't like Zelensky. Why does Donald Trump not like Zelensky? It seems to stem from the Hunter Biden laptop. He wanted the Ukrainians to work with him in order to damage Joe Biden. And they didn't. And now he has this immense grudge, immense chip on his shoulder over this, and he's punishing the Ukrainians because he doesn't like Zelensky. It's as petty as that. He likes Putin. He admires Putin. Putin is somebody he would like to be, this strong man who decides, how the country is run, decides who's able to speak, who isn't able to speak, decides who's in charge under him, and there's no real democracy. You have the pretend democracy every few years in Russia, and of course Putin or Medvedev, as it was before, there's a switcheroo between who's president and who's prime minister.
Particularly well, yeah, I think it's time. I think it's an important time to hold an election.
They're in the middle of a frigging war. How could they hold an election? Is Trump stupid, or is he just pretending?
They're using war not to hold an election, but
so they decided, let's continue a war so we don't have an election. Oh my goodness!
I would think the Ukrainian people should have that choice, and maybe Zelensky would win. I don't know who would win, but they haven't had an election in a long time. They talk about a democracy, but it gets to a point where it's not a democracy anymore.
You're one to talk, aren't you?
On Sunday, your son, Donald Trump Jr., responded to a reporter's question about whether you will, quote, walk away from Ukraine. And your son said, I think he may. Is that correct?
No, it's not correct, but it's not exactly wrong. We have to, they have to play ball if they don't read agreements, potential agreements. It's not easy with Russia because Russia has the upper hand, and they always did. They're much bigger, They're much stronger in that sense.
They were supposed to carry out an operation which replaced the government in Ukraine in 3 days. Do you remember the 3-day special operation? How well is that going? Ukraine sunk. Ukraine doesn't have a navy, but it managed to sink a number of Russian ships, significant sized ships, and it doesn't have a navy.
Of Ukraine, a lot of. I give the people.
Am I saying that everything is going swimmingly for the Ukrainians? Of course not. They're being propped up, of course, by allies in Europe and the United States. So far, they wouldn't be able to carry out these operations on their own. Of course not. But Russia doesn't really have the we're currently talking about a stalemate here.
Of Ukraine and the military of Ukraine, tremendous credit for the bravery and for the fighting and all of that. But at some point, size will win generally, and this is a massive size. You take a look at the numbers. I mean, the numbers are just crazy. This is not a war that should have happened. This is a war that would have never.
He just keeps repeating this ridiculous line. The war shouldn't have happened. If I was president, it wouldn't have happened. While you were president, Russia was in Crimea. Did you decide to kick Russia out of Crimea? No.
If I were president,
it was an illegal annexation of Crimea, but Trump decided to ignore the situation. So Trump cannot wash his hands of this situation.
Millions of people are dead, many soldiers. Last month they lost 27,000 soldiers and some people from missiles being launched into Kiev and other places.
You notice that he always focuses on the deaths. Sorry, Max mic. Lower your mic volume. Oh, apologies. Okay, hopefully that's a bit better. Don't have elections during wartime, of course not. Size will win. Jesus, yeah. Please, I hope hey, that's better. Okay, much better. Sorry about that. I had the volume a little bit too high there. What was I saying? Max, your mic is chipping out. Let me see if there's a... It should be a bit better now. Better now. Okay.
But what is...
Yeah, so something I wanted to say was Trump focuses a lot on Ukrainian dead, but never Russian dead. Isn't that interesting? Russia is losing allegedly 1,000 soldiers a day, but Trump never mentions that.
What a sad thing for humanity. This doesn't affect us. Our country is no longer paying any money. It was just Biden gave him $350 billion so stupidly. And, if he wouldn't have given it, maybe something else would have happened.
But what do you think would have happened if we didn't support Ukraine? I wonder what would have happened. Oh, yes, Putin would have marched in and he would have annexed all of Ukraine, not just Crimea.
But Putin had no respect for Biden. And he had no respect for...
Yeah, does he have a lot of respect for you? No, of course not. He's playing you like a fiddle.
Zelensky didn't like Zelensky. They really hate each other. And part of the problem is they hate each other really a lot, And it's very hard for them to try and make a deal. It's harder than most. I settled 8 wars.
Yeah, settled 8 wars. How many of them have been restarting? Let me see.
And this, I would have said, this is the 9th. This would have been the easiest one I would have said, or one of the easier ones. I mean, I settled one that was going on for 36 years. I settled Pakistan and India. I settled so many wars. I'm very proud of it. And I do it pretty routinely, pretty easily. It's not hard for me to do. It's what I do. I make deals.
I missed the memo. Kashmir has been resolved. Okay.
This one is tough. One of the reasons is the level of hatred between Putin and Zelensky is tremendous.
And you're right, you're not spending money, but you are spending your time and your energy on this.
I want to stop.
Oh my goodness, these sycophantic journalists are pathetic.
I want to stop seeing people killed.
If this deal, if Zelensky rejects this deal, is there a timeline? Is there a point at which you say, okay?
Well, he's going to have to get on the ball and start accepting things. When you're losing, Is it losing?
Do you think Ukraine has lost this war?
My goodness. He says they're losing, and then she asks, do you think they've lost? Is she Russian? This is an honest question. Is she Russian? Is she a Russian journalist? Because she sounds exactly like either a MAGA or a Russian journalist.
Well, they've lost territory long before I got here. They lost a whole strip of seafront, big seafront. I mean, you look at the maps. I've been here for 10 months, but you go back 10 months and take a look. They lost that whole strip. It's now a bigger strip. It's a wider strip, but they lost a lot of land, and it's very good land, too, that they lost. You certainly wouldn't say it's a victory. I could show you a chart. It's a lot of land they lost.
It's a lot of land. I think
you got to think of it. If our election wasn't rigged, it was a rigged election now, everyone knows it. It's going to come out over the next couple of months too, loud and clear, because we have all the information there. But if the election wasn't rigged and stolen, you wouldn't even be talking about Ukraine right now.
The resounding consensus in
What the hell is he talking about?
Europe right now is that they want to keep supporting Ukraine until they can win this war.
Until they drop, yeah.
Well, is that realistic in your view?
I mean, look, then they should support it. Europe is...
They are supporting Ukraine, but in some ways they were not able to support Ukraine because the United States would not give them the permission to support you. Because a lot of the weapons that the UK and Europe were using, that in some cases want to give to Ukraine, the United States didn't want to go along with that. Now that was part in a result of Joe Biden, and it was a part as a result of Donald Trump. Joe Biden tried to go like the hammers of hell towards the end somewhat, but it was too late at that stage.
I'm friendly with all of them. I mean, I like all of them. I have no real enemy. I've had a couple that I didn't like over the years. I actually like the current crew. I like them a lot. But I know
more lies.
them very well. I know them really well. Some are friends, some are okay. I know the good leaders, I know the bad leaders, I know the smart ones, I know the stupid ones. You got some real stupid ones too. But they're not doing a good job. Europe is not doing a good job in many ways. They're not doing a good job.
I want to ask
you
about
talk too
that.
much. And
From the guy who just rambles on. Yeah, they talk too much.
they're not producing. We're talking about Ukraine. They talk, but they don't produce. And the war just keeps going on and on. I mean, 4 years now it's been going on, long before I got here. This is not my war. This is Joe Biden's war. And in terms of America, it's a very sad thing. And the only reason I really care about it is because I hate to see young, beautiful people being killed. That's largely why I got involved. I mean,
You care about if you hate the idea of young, beautiful people being killed, then you could provide Ukraine with the support it needs to kick Russia out, and then the war would end. See, the war will continue as long as Russia tries to take over Ukraine. So Donald Trump can suggest, let's have a ceasefire, let's have a peace deal, but we know that Putin will not respect that. He's not in the business of respecting peace deals. He's not and he knows that if he does break the peace deal, Donald Trump will do nothing about it because Donald Trump doesn't give a shit. Look at Ukraine. Look at Gaza. What has happened since then? The ceasefire has broken down. Has Donald Trump sent an envoy to the Middle East to sort it out? No, because he doesn't give a shit. He got what he wanted. He got his photo opportunity. He's still talking about how he delivered peace in the Middle East. There is no peace in the Middle East. Some of it is maintained, some of it is falling apart. There are groups within Gaza who are fighting each other, including Hamas and others. There is no peace in Gaza at the moment. There's somewhat of a ceasefire, but it's not really holding. And Israel attacked Lebanon not that long ago as well. So there is no peace, although he can claim that there is. I'm going to stop it on this here, guys, because this goes on for 45 minutes. And I'm really disappointed with the journalist here because it sounds like she's either a MAGA supporter or she's a Russian journalist. Either and I don't know which is worse at this stage. They're pretty much more of the same. They're pretty much the same. Sorry. Please no, I'm not going to continue. He's playing to emotions, yes. So when just to summarize, what Donald Trump I think is trying to do is he's trying to claim that he has succeeded in delivering peace. He wants Ukraine to sign up to this Russian deal so that he can go to Kiev and he can have his photo opportunity with both Zelensky, Putin, and anyone else, any of the other stakeholders, and then he can just fuck off back to the United States and claim another peace award. That's all he cares about. Something to put on his mantelpiece. He doesn't care about the Ukrainian people. He doesn't care about the soldiers he's pretending to claim about. He doesn't care that much about Putin. He'd like to emulate Putin. He admires Putin because he likes this strongman figure in the same way as he likes the North Korean leader or the Chinese leader. He sees these strong men that he would like to be the same as. Freckle Pony, thanks so much. Come on, Farage, tell your orange-faced mentor to keep his nose out of British affairs. Like you did to Obama. Yes, but of course, when it comes to Trump, the Farage supporters, the reformers, are all cheering him on. They think he's wonderful. And they want him. There were people talking about how they would love for Trump to invade the United Kingdom and remove Keir Starmer as Prime Minister. The same people who are saying, like, we need to leave the European Union because we need our sovereignty back. Anyway, guys, let's move on to our next story, which is related to Keir Starmer. So Andy Burnham is back, it seems, and he may want to replace Keir Starmer.
And the latest twist in the is Andy Burnham going to be Prime Minister story is you appeared on a Labour Together survey.
Well, it's nothing to do with me.
I mean, look, your name continues to be mentioned. It continues to be put forward as the pressure sort of mounts on the Prime Minister. What do you make of your name still consistently being mentioned? And look, the question always stands. You can end the speculation today if you said I don't want to be Prime Minister, but you choose not to do.
I mean, I'm not putting my name in those surveys, and kind of Westminster does what it does, and I get often drawn in without being involved in it all. And I don't know if it's come over in what I've been saying to you today. The passion I have for this job. I think people underestimate what a wrench it would be for me to leave this job. I've loved this job, everything about it, and I think what we're building here is kind of what the country needs a bit more of. We're kind of using power to get closer to people, place first rather than party first. We're really using devolved power here, and I think because of that, it's devolution that has the energy in British politics right now. So when people always ask me about Westminster, I left for a reason. And what we've built here is the new thing that I think is what we need. I would say in the last 10 years, Greater Manchester has become more and more functional as the country has become more and more dysfunctional. And I think what we need to do is kind of, build devolution out more and more and more.
Okay, I want to come back to that in a moment. I just want to thanks to Freckle Pony for that super chat as well. I'm a bit skeptical of Andy Burnham. I'm not 100% sold on him because I think he's a bit of an opportunist. Back in 2015, when he was a member of the House of Commons, he stood up and talked about how Brexit would be a good thing for Britain because it would strengthen the working class. It would mean, well, not that it would be a good, he thought it'd be a good idea for, he believed that membership of the European Union had undermined workers in Britain. Now, I don't remember if he was supportive of leaving, but he made a sort of argument that you hear from many Brexiteers that, Europeans were coming to take people's jobs. Well, we saw the consequences of removing Europeans from the scenario, from the situation. So I'm not fully on board with Andy Burnham. Look, I think he's doing a wonderful job in Greater Manchester. He's really popular. He's doing wonderful things for that part of the country, but I think he's a bit of an opportunist, and I'm not fully sold on him. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe my gut is telling me that he's not somebody that you would want as the leader of the Labour Party. And once again, I could be wrong, and feel free to correct me in the chat. Angela Rayner, I think, would be a better person. She seems more authentic. She seems to be somebody who's passionate about the working class, who cares about the working class. Wes Streeting, no, of course not. Wes Streeting, Wes Streeting is being promoted, wait till you hear this, by the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg. Now, what does that tell you about Wes Streeting? He would represent a sort of centre-right within the Labour Party. So the policies would remain the same. The policies before the U-turns I'm talking about. So punishing asylum seekers, punishing the poor, punishing the disabled. When it comes to the NHS, Wes Streeting has been very ambitious about it, but if you scratch the surface, you see a lot of donations from private healthcare. Now, as I said before, companies make donations as an investment, not because they like the look of you, it's because they want something in return. And why would private healthcare companies be investing in Wes Streeting? Now that he's the health secretary, what is he doing with those investments? Is he going to give them something in return, or is he going to give them, show them two fingers and say, no, I'm fully supportive of having a public healthcare system funded by the taxpayer? Because what we've heard a lot about is free at the point of use. The NHS will remain free at the point of use. Well, that's not the same as it being publicly owned or being fully public and not involving the private sector. Because what you could have a situation is where taxpayer money is going to fund private enterprises in the NHS, but when you go to use the NHS, you don't pay anything. So it's not like in the United States. But this is a sort of privatization by the back door, where the public sector rely more on the private sector to do bureaucracy, to provide services, all of these things. So the person using the NHS doesn't see any difference. They will look, the NHS is free. I go in, I don't need to pay any bills, I don't need to have health insurance or anything like this. But by stealth, more and more of it is outsourced to the private sector. And as we know, the private sector is not interested in reinvesting that money in better services. It's about shoveling that money into the pockets of shareholders. And this is where you start to see a greater tax burden. More and more of people's taxes are going to fund the private sector, and this has to stop. It's very complicated to give a straight answer to that. I've met him, and I don't think he's suited in Parliament, excuse me, as it is. I admire him for his stance on Hillsborough and Algrave. When it comes to Andy Burnham as an individual, I think he's a good person. I think he's doing wonderful things for Manchester. He cares about the people there. But I'm just not fully sold on him as leader of the Labour Party, because he keeps getting pushed into a position and he doesn't resist a lot. He claims that he doesn't want to be involved, but he doesn't resist, which gives me, I don't know, it doesn't bode well with me.
Because it's something that is working, and it's something that the country needs right now, I would say. So, I mean, you don't want to do for the country what you've done for Greater Manchester. I mean, the temptation must be there. The thing is, though, it's not my call either. I'm not an MP. I can't stand in a leadership race. It's not for me. It would Clive Lewis mentioned he'd give up his seat for other people in Westminster, wouldn't it, to decide, and whether I want to support the government.
It's other people in Westminster to decide. What does he mean by that? To decide to step aside, like Clive Lewis has said. Clive Lewis has said that he'd be willing to give up his seat. I think that was not a good thing to do or a good thing to say, because you're supposed to represent your constituents. You're supposed to be there until you have been, kicked out by the electorate, or until you decide, look, I'm no longer running as an MP. But I'm not. Once again, look, maybe I'm wrong, but it's just my gut feeling is there's something off here.
I'm here to make a success of this Labour government, and I don't know if people there think I could have a role in that in any capacity, and I mean in any capacity when I say that. Then of course, if the call came, I'm not going to, just turn away from it. But I want the government to succeed, and I think the government could succeed by really setting us up to go for it on all of the things that I've been talking about and fixing the housing crisis. Personally, I would say, should become a really clear, dominant theme for this Labour government. And I can do as much, if not more, from here than I can do in Westminster.
And maybe he's right. Look, when it comes to Labour, they need a vision. They need a vision going forward. And this is a massive problem for Labour at the moment. They don't have a vision. They have nothing that they can sell to the public. I keep saying, in order to hold on to power, you need to improve the situation for ordinary people. You need to communicate that you are responsible for that. But you also have to have a vision. And when you have a vision, you're able to instruct MPs when they do interviews to keep calling back to the vision. So whenever if they talk about the NHS, bring it back to the vision that you want to have the public have in their minds when they go to vote. This is what Labour represent. I'm not sure what that vision should be. Maybe it's returning to working class values, the party of the working class. They don't use the term working class a lot. They prefer to use working people or working families. I don't know what the problem with working class is. Most people have an idea of what working class is. And Labour need to return to that, because if they don't, somebody else will fill that gap. And it seems that the Green Party, who we would not normally associate with the working class, are starting to eat into that territory. And because they're pushing policies like a wealth tax, talking about the cost of living crisis, issues like this, support for the disabled. So these are policies these are areas that Labour should be holding on to, should be winning. But if they're ceding this territory to somebody else, that's a massive problem for them. So there is an opportunity if they do change leader. I don't see it happening between now and the May elections, because Keir Starmer, while he's unpopular, it would be extremely disruptive to the Labour Party to change leader between now and the May elections. It's more likely that they will wait until the result of the May elections. If they're not so bad, Keir Starmer may limp on. If it's really bad, he will probably resign. And I think they would prefer for him to resign than to have a messy leadership challenge. And hardworking people too. Yes, they keep talking about hardworking, not lazy working people, hardworking people. Richard Branson probably has a lot more than most of us. Yes. It's like moving squares around with one missing. Pre-Rubik. Not sure what that's about. We need an investigation into MPs' homes and who bought them. And was it with rubles? Well said, Andy. Yes. Look, when it comes to corruption within the Labour Party, need to be pushing really for connections to foreign entities, foreign powers, foreign multimillionaires and billionaires, and seeing where money is coming from. They need to put a cap at least on donations, or to ban them altogether. I would be of the idea that you need to ban donations altogether. This would harm the Labour Party as well, but it would completely hamstring Nigel Farage, because what would he do then? He wouldn't be able to take any donations. Or he would be up in court over them if he was to break those rules. But what did he do? He received £9 million this week. For what? We'll have to wait and see. So guys, we're about halfway through the stream, so I'm just going to take a short comedy moment, and then we'll be back in just a jiffy with more serious stuff. So I hope you enjoy this. Why isn't it working?
I'm being silly, that's Claire Boulding, another lesbian, don't worry, it's absolutely fine. The first thing that's really important, because this has been a bit of a confusing issue, I am not James Acaster. That's James Acaster. I've got to be very clear about this, because he's a brilliant comedian, he's a great friend of mine, but he said that people keep shouting my name at him in the street. We don't look similar, do we? I don't think we look similar at all. Anyway, my agent said we used to do some posters to promote the tour. Have you got any ideas? I'd been drinking, this is what I came up with. I was furious because sales shot up. Got me into all sorts of legal headaches. I had to do a public apology. I said I'll never again use James Acaster's image without his prior approval. I've agreed to not play Kettering on the tour, that's where he's from. And I said within the apology post I will publish the correct tour poster, which is attached, and then I attach the correct one. So it's I'm being silly, that's Claire Boulding, another lesbian, don't worry, it's absolutely fine. That was the correct tour post, that's the correct one. Well, actually, technically that's the correct one, but... It's so nice though. Since I changed the name of the show, people have been promoting it for me. This is in Salford. Isn't that nice of them to do that? It's so lovely of them to do that.
Yes, that is about Prince Andrew. He's no longer Prince Andrew, of course. He's now, well, we know. So, Andrew Windsor. So, let's move on. So, Kemi Badenoch refuses to say it twice as Tories trail in the polls. What she refused to say. Okay. Kemi Badenoch has refused to say the Conservatives are intending to win the next May elections, local elections, despite being repeatedly pushed on the issue. Finally, we're getting some honesty maybe from Kemi Badenoch. Asked twice to define success for her party at the elections, the Tory leader merely said that she was going to be fighting for every vote. Speaking to Sky News, she added, "Success is going to be to the people. Is going to be the people seeing the Conservative Party as the only party that is competent and credible enough to do the tough stuff that makes this country needs." So let's hear what she had to say.
Senior NHS providers chief has said that people with a cold must wear a mask when they're in public places this winter. What do you think when you hear that?
I'm still slightly traumatized by all the mask wearing that we had to do during COVID. Look, let's bring some common sense into this. I personally think that face coverings can be a barrier to social interaction, social cohesion.
Is she afraid of losing, the people who tried to burn down 5G masts, not masks? Is this like, we better not upset the crazy people in society? The experts are saying we should wear masks because it protects ourselves and other people. And her first response is, well, instead, like a normal politician should say, look, we must follow the guidance. The guidance is this. I encourage people to follow the guidance. And then stop there. Not attempt to pander to people with tinfoil hats.
And I do worry about a mask mandate. I don't think government should be mandating anything. Let's have some common sense. I think people can make up.
Boris Johnson was suggesting common sense at the beginning of the pandemic. And we saw how that worked out. Like the Tory response to everything is, yeah, just use your common sense. I think it'd be common sense to tax the rich. Would you support that? No, we're not going to do that. That would be terrible. That wouldn't be common sense.
Their own minds. If you are really sick, you should be in bed. You should not be on public transport. I think that's more of a problem. But the truth is, many people are contagious.
But if you're really sick, you should be in bed. This is the same party who's complaining that people are not working, even if they are sick. So, well, you're not really sick. Get into the workplace. You stop being so lazy.
Before they realise that they're even ill. So I'm not sure that it would work. I think it's a surprising announcement. I'm not quite sure why they've done that.
Here we are at the end of this year. How would you say it's going out of 10?
I never give marks out of 10. I say whether things are better or worse. And when I look at the historic defeat which Conservatives suffered last year, things are definitely better. We are more cohesive as a party. Our policy offer is clearer.
Yes, because it was an absolute bin fire before. So we've managed to put out the bin fire somewhat, and we're looking at the ashes and saying, look, at least the bin fire is out.
We're raising money. We've got a new HQ. But we're not out of the woods yet. I want the public to trust us. There's a lot of work that I need to do to show them the Conservative Party has changed, that we have authentic Conservative policies that will make this country better.
But are you
such as? We're going to promise you stuff. What are you going to promise us? Well, we haven't decided yet, but we will promise you stuff.
even sure under your leadership the Tories have kind of bottomed out? I mean, the polls are still low, the defections are going to Reform UK. Robert Jenrick said at the weekend you've got a mountain to climb. Is that a fair assessment? Have we reached the bottom and are you improving, or might there be some way to fall?
Of course we had a mountain to climb. We lost more seats than we've ever done.
He's saying you've still got a mountain to climb.
This was always going to be a long road ahead. Previous oppositions have been 18 years, 13 years, 14 years. I've been doing this job for 12 months. There is plenty of work to do, but I'm up for the fight.
But he says the mountain is ahead of you. Look, you've had the resignation of Angela Rayner, of Peter Mandelson, what you term the welfare budget, all of these things, and you're not really benefiting as far as we can.
No, we know who's benefiting. It's Reform UK. And she doesn't seem to understand. Look, the Conservatives are a sort of sideshow at the moment. Now, they may come back, they may become successful in the future, but at the moment they're just a sideshow. The main focus is the Labour Party, the Labour government, and Reform UK. That's the reality of the situation. Kemi Badenoch is a footnote at the moment. If she wants to change something, and I've said before, she needs to challenge Farage on territory that he's uncomfortable with. I don't know, I don't know really what she can do, but she's doing it all wrong, whatever she is doing. She's challenging him on immigration. You don't challenge Farage on immigration, because all he has to do is turn around and say, well, when you were in charge, it was an absolute disaster. So I don't know why we keep seeing Tory after Tory talking about immigration. She should instruct her MPs, stop talking about immigration, because all you're doing is helping Farage. You think you're attacking the Labour Party and you're harming them? No, you're just helping Farage. He doesn't even have to mention anything because you're doing all the work for him. So they should be talking about something else. Now, the Tories, for all the wrong reasons, are believed to be the party of the economy. So it would make more sense, I'm not saying that she should, but it would make more sense for her to focus on the economy. Not because the Conservatives should have any credence with the economy, but unfortunately voters still think, a significant number of them still think the Tories are the party of a strong economy. And there's an opportunity there for her. Kemi, she's just a working class gal, said Kirsty, yes. She used to work minimum wage, and then she sort of fell into a situation where she didn't even need maternity leave. She told who was she working for, the Spectator or something at the time, and she even told them, look, I don't even need maternity leave because my husband is a multimillionaire.
You can tell from the polls.
Right now we see a lot of political fragmentation. The truth is, it's the public who are going to decide. There's no election tomorrow. They're going to be watching what everybody is doing, and when a general election comes, they will make up their minds. What I need to do...
Whenever a party is doing badly in the polls, they will say, look, there isn't an election now. Whenever a party is doing well in the polls, they say, see, we're doing really well. We'll hear exactly the same thing from Farage. When Farage starts to dip in the polls, they say the polls are not important. The only real vote that's important is the election. But at the moment they're saying, look at us, we're doing so well in the polls.
Is make sure that I'm not blowing around, just trying to win votes for the sake of it. I'm being honest. There's something going very wrong in our country. We need to get Britain working again. Too many people on benefits. Only one party is standing up for them, and that's the Conservative Party.
There isn't an
Sorry, standing up for who? People on benefits? No, you're not. You'd throw them into a wood chipper.
election in 5 months' time. What would relative success look like in that?
Well, as I said, we're going to be fighting for every single vote. There are going to be local elections.
No. This is a lie. Parties don't fight for every single vote. You know that there's some votes that you're never going to win, so there's no point campaigning there. What you do is you look at the voter roll and you go out and you speak to people who have already voted, hoping that they will vote for you. But you're not going to go after every vote. This is a stupid, ridiculous rhetoric from politicians.
It's not all over the country, and there is a Conservative message that I want everyone to hear. Our country is not working properly. There are fundamental things that need to change.
Yes. Who broke it? It's like, hey, look at this toy we have. It's broken. It's not working. Okay, who broke it? I don't know. It was like that when I got here.
Create jobs, otherwise we're not going to have money for councils, and we are the only party that is responsible. We've seen new parties like Reform come in, they're making a hash of things at council level. We need to make sure that people can see the benefits of voting Conservative.
That was a lengthy answer, but I asked you what success looked like. You didn't say winning.
Well, as I said, we're going to be fighting for every vote. I'm not...
Okay, so she's not expected to win. Yeah, maybe we're starting to see a little bit of honesty from the Conservatives. She doesn't want to be so embarrassed to say, we are planning to win, and then they lose all their seats at the local elections. I think the Tories still have not hit rock bottom yet. I think there's some way to go. And as I mentioned before, if it goes really badly for them at the May elections, I think there will be real calls on Kemi Badenoch to go. And she will likely be replaced with, drum roll, I don't have the drum roll sound, Robert Jenrick. I'm pretty sure they'll go with Robert Jenrick because they'll think that they're not far right enough. They think Kemi is too moderate. So they'll say, we need a Farage type figure. We need somebody who's, who jumps over turnstiles, who single-handedly arrests people in the middle of the street, who puts up flags against the rules. Robert Jenrick, he's our guy. He's our Batman. He's the one who can lead us to victory. And of course, they'll put him in charge for a few months, and then after maybe a year, they'll realize, it's not working out with Robert Jenrick. Maybe we need somebody else. And they'll probably look for somebody even further to the right. They say, no, we need somebody even closer to Farage. We need to be able to... See, I think some of the Conservatives are saying, have this idea that what we'll do is we'll be like Farage, but we'll be the sensible Farage. Nigel Farage is all the way out there. He's a loose cannon. But if we were in charge, we're going to have the same policies, but we will present them in a more palatable way. And I think they actually think that it's going to work. It's not. Because if somebody's foaming at the mouth over immigration, they're not going to vote for the Conservatives, they're going to vote for reform. Why vote for semi-skimmed racist when you can get the full fat version?
Now the final
moving on.
Report on COVID-19's financial fraud has found UK taxpayers lost £10.9 billion after the previous government's pandemic response left the door open to fraud. Let's bring in our business and economics correspondent.
Isn't that wonderful? So we just had Kemi Badenoch saying, you need to put us in charge because we're able to manage the economy. And what did her party do when they were in charge? Well, they issued PP contracts, support for companies, which resulted in £11 billion in fraud. I said before, Boris Johnson should be in jail, but unfortunately he won't be.
Paul Kelso, that's quite a sum, isn't it?
It is, £10.9 billion. Worth putting it in the context of the enormous spending during COVID. More than £370 billion spent by the state propping up the NHS and the economy. Around £200 billion of that went on support for businesses and individuals during things like...
You notice there's not much of a hullabaloo about this. Not many people talking about this. Can you imagine if they discovered a significant amount of fraud in the benefit system? Do you think the Conservatives would be shouting about it from the rooftops? Do you think Reform UK would be on GB News every hour on the hour complaining about this as well? Of course they would. Talk TV would be exploding with delight. Here we have this wonderful story, so much fraud in the benefit system. Now let's run story after story. The Daily Mail would have booked up, the printers for the next 2 weeks to talk about this. But when it comes to the Tories and fraud, not hearing much about it.
The furlough scheme, when the state paid many people's wages, bounce back loans, state-backed, very easy to get money very quickly into companies. That was the point of them, but they were open to fraud. £10.9 billion. A man called Tom Hayhoe, who ran an NHS trust during COVID, who is the COVID Counter-Fraud Commission, he says that's how much was lost from the business schemes through fraud and error. About £1.8 billion has been recovered of that, but he's concluded that the rest will never come back. Why did it happen? Mr. Hayes says most public organisations were unprepared for a crisis that required spending on such a scale and with such urgency, and that prioritising speed, getting money out of the door, increased the risk of fraud. In terms of what can be done in future, he says there are 9 recommendations for government, most of them about improving departmental operations.
But they won't be implemented, of course.
Prioritising fraud. He wants something he calls a challenge champion, so appointing a person whose job will be in future crises to say, hold on a minute, let's think about how...
I can guarantee you, I would put my hand on my heart right now, and I would promise you that if the Labour government put in some sort of measure to deal with this, it will be the very first thing that the Tories will remove if they get back into power. Or it'll be one of the very first things that Reform remove. So if there's some sort of czar or some sort of commissioner set up to stop fraud from happening in the future, this will be the first person sacked by the Conservatives or Reform if they get into power. I can guarantee it.
How people could exploit this scheme before we shovel the money out of the door. One wonders, you think back to COVID in that almost daily escalation of spending and response, death toll rising, the political pressure and the political unity actually at the time around some of these schemes. That's quite a job, isn't it, to be the one saying, hang on a minute, let's think about if this could be exploited. But exploited it was, and that is something that this government has been very keen to point out. Rachel Reeves appointed Tom Hayhoe. She's been speaking in the Commons this morning. She has...
No, it's good that the government are looking into this, and it's good that they're trying to claw some of this money back. But it demonstrates once again that the Conservatives should never be anywhere near the levers of power. So as I covered before, as I mentioned before, actually earlier in the stream, Angela Rayner may be making a comeback. So let's have a look at that. So Angela Rayner just showed Labour MPs what they're missing. So the deputy, well, let's have a look at that.
It has been a battle to pass this bill, but progress is always a struggle that we fought for. Its passage will be a historic achievement for this Labour government. It will benefit working people now and into the future. Now is not the time to blink or buckle. Let's not waste a minute more. It's time to deliver.
Well done. So she's talking about the employment rights bill. So the day after Sir Keir Starmer said he wanted Angela Rayner back in the cabinet, she showed Labour MPs what they've been missing. So the former Deputy Prime Minister delighted Labour backbenchers with a powerful common speech defending her workers' rights legislation on Monday evening. With the House of Lords locked in a battle of parliamentary ping-pong with MPs, she told ministers, now is not the time to blink or to buckle. Her very public intervention came amid claims that her next move was the Labour Party on tenterhooks, and that she's the favourite to succeed Sir Keir if she wants the job. I think she's probably back in a strong position to replace Starmer. Now, a number of people, I think, are against the idea of course, the blue Labour people, the Conservatives, like Jacob Rees-Mogg, would prefer to see Wes Streeting in charge, or maybe even Andy Burnham, but they fear Angela Rayner because she represents a position that the Conservatives can't really touch, and that being the working class. She would represent a return to working class values, working class vision for the Labour Party, and I think it could really benefit Labour if they do replace Starmer with Angela Rayner. She'd be the first female leader of the Labour Party, first female Prime Minister. She wouldn't have won the election, so she wouldn't be viewed as the legitimate Prime Minister in many people's eyes, but she would be in a position where she could turn things around for the Labour Party. She could be somebody who could present a vision, so a working class vision. I think she's probably the best they could go with. Now, she has this bit of baggage when it came to a house, that she avoided reaching out to professionals for advice on. I think this is still going to be something that will dog her, but Reform UK can't bring this up because Nigel Farage has his own housing problems. So I think while it's really unfortunate that she got involved in that, because I think it has damaged her a significant amount, and it could undermine her if she became the leader of the Labour Party. It would turn off a lot of people. But at the same time, I think she could, if she's strong enough, she could overcome that, and she could present herself as an alternative to Starmer and the Morgan McSweeney wing of the party. Why was rummaging in our bank accounts? Why are we rummaging in our bank accounts and we can't rummage in theirs? Well said. Why are they rummaging in our bank accounts? So why is the government going into people's bank accounts and the public can't go into the government's for some reason? Turk Madia, thank you so much for that super chat. It's far too soon for her to come back. I think it's still going to be a case of the the midterm elections, or if the May elections, as they're sometimes called the midterms. So I think it's really going to be a case of how well Labour do there. If they do really badly, then there'll be a stronger call for Starmer to resign. And I think Starmer would resign. I don't think he would fight it. He would see the writing on the wall and he would get out of the way. And it would open it up for, I think, Angela Rayner or West Streeting. I think they are the ones who would be leading. And I really hope it's the case that Angela Rayner wins and not West Streeting, because West Streeting would be just a continuity of the current situation. West Streeting is very good at speaking. He's really good at rhetoric, but I don't like the guy. I don't trust him whatsoever. He's been very dismissive of the trade unions, who are the cornerstone of the Labour Party. The way West Streeting talks about the trade unions, it would be like Kemi Badenoch insulting millionaires. It's like saying, look at these frigging millionaires. They're all lazy. You imagine her doing something like that. So, yes, West Streeting insulting the BMA, the British Medical Association, the BMA, yes, that represent doctors and nurses, I believe, doctors in particular. So he's had a battle with them for a number of years. He's described them as petty. He's supposed to be on their side. They're workers. They're part of a trade union. Starmer, the TikTok star. Well said, Kirsty. I hope you're joking. I really do hope you're joking. If you're not, that's really concerning. Okay, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I just want to cover one final story here before we go. This is from Scotland, but it's talking about Nigel Farage, so let's have a listen about that. Don't worry, Nigel Farage won't appear too much in this.
Hello and welcome to the Nationals podcast. I'm Lucy Jackson. I'm one of the multimedia reporters on the team, and I'm joined here today by one of our columnists, Kylie Given. We're going to be talking today particularly around reform and the latest comments that they've made around neurodivergent children and young people. But before we get started, I just want to say thank you so much for coming on today. How are you doing?
I'm good, yeah. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
No, absolutely. I mean, I feel like a lot has been happening, especially with reform recently in the news. We've got Farage's visit to Scotland, and obviously Farage has recently, in the last few days, come out with some, frankly, vile comments about school children in Glasgow, which we have covered extensively, which you can read.
So what she's referring to, of course, is Nigel Farage talking about how 1 in 3 children in Scotland don't speak English as their first language, suggesting that, well, they don't speak English. And then, of course, Reform and Reform-friendly TV jumped on this to suggest that, oh, look at all this money that's been wasted on all these foreigners who don't even speak English, when in reality, we're talking about children whose second language is English. There was no question about their level of English. Brian, thanks so much for that super chat once again. Max, if you're looking for a future comedy moments, you can play the 90s Eurodance hit Max, Don't Have Sex With Your Ex. Yes, that's the real song. Oh my goodness. I must check that out before I use it as a comedy piece. Thanks so much, Brad. I think.
At the National.Scot. But Reform's deputy leader has also been in some
Mr. Richard Tice.
Quite hot water, yeah, for comments that he's made specifically around neurodivergent children. I'm just going to read out what he said. I feel like that's a good way to start. So basically, Tice said that there is a crisis of overdiagnosis of children with neurodiverse issues. That's what he said, which I'm not really sure
whatever that means.
What that means.
I'm not sure he knows what that means, to be honest.
He then goes on to say, when asked what Reform will do to tackle this issue, he says, stop labelling people. Just say you need a bit of extra support. You might need a bit of extra time. You've got to the mad situation now where children who don't have any form of label are starting to feel left out. They're feeling that, in inverted commas, they're the normal minority. It's insane, and it's becoming a sort of school joke. And he also said, I'll just raise one more point. The sight of children in classes wearing ear defenders, I'm sorry, this is just insane. It's got to stop.
Okay, so what are Reform trying to do here? Of course, Reform are trying to suggest that, well, if people our children at school have mental health issues, well, they don't deserve support. Why is this all? What is this all about? Do they care about children with mental health issues. They don't. But it's not about the children. It's about the money. See, Reform are the party of the rich for the rich. They want to push through policies that will reduce support for the most vulnerable in society. They only care about rich people, and rich people can pay their way, whether it's the NHS, whether it's public services, whatever. So they see this as a way of encouraging ordinary people to buy into this idea that, oh, look at all this waste that's taking place. Well, we need to vote for Reform because they will reduce the waste. And in reality, what they'll do is they'll impose austerity. The party of austerity, where is it now? Well, it's in Reform UK. The Tories who were kicked out of the last election, a lot of them are in Nigel Farage's outfit today. And they are the same people who were championing austerity. And Reform want to impose austerity. Now, they may say that we want to support British people, make sure that British people can get into housing, that British people can access benefits. But then if you talk about benefits in general, they will say, well, they're too high and we need to punish people. We need to kick them off benefits and into work. So whenever the issue of immigration is brought up, we must prioritize British people. Whenever the issue of British people on their own are brought up, well, if they're on benefits, they need to be punished. Do you understand what they're doing? They're weaponizing both issues. One, of course, when it comes to immigration, we see it all the time as well when it comes to homeless people. If you raise the issue of homelessness with a Reform UK supporter, they will say, well, we should be looking after our own. Then if you take immigration out of the discussion, then they'll say some horrible things about homeless people and how, well, they need to be moved on, or they're blocking doorways, or they need to be, they would share videos of members of the public abusing them and cheer it on, or they would be celebrating business owners who poured boiling water on homeless people, as we see in the United States. That happens all the time. So when it comes to homeless people, even if they're British, they don't give a shit about them. But if we're talking about immigration, then we must prioritize our own people. We must stand up for them. How dare they be abandoned by the state? These people are charlatans. They're hypocrites and charlatans. They don't care about the people they claim to care about. In the same way as when it comes to women, they will say that we're on the side of women when it comes to asylum seekers carrying out offences against them. But then if you look into the people who are front and centre at these protests, a lot of them have convictions for domestic violence. So they're not people who are on the side of women. They pretend to. Or when it comes to protecting women, they will say, well, we need to protect our women, but not all women. When the rioting was taking place, 2 Filipino nurses were attacked because they looked foreign. Kirsty right on hasn't seen The Wicker Man. Not sure what that's about.
I mean, first of all, his vocabulary isn't very large, is it? He just continually uses the word insane. He doesn't know what he's talking about. But also, where's his evidence for that? Where is the evidence that this has become a school joke, or that school children feel that they're in a minority? Where are you backing that up from? Who's told him that? Because it's just not the case. And you can't be spouting things like that without backing it up with evidence, surely.
Absolutely. I mean, it seems like, this isn't the first time that Reform has sort of come out with this line of argument either. It's just the latest in a long line of attacks really on neurodivergent people.
And I think it's a wider attack, and we've seen it from Trump, we've seen it from Reform, and now, astonishingly, we're seeing it from Labour and West Streeting. So it has become a sort of right wing, if you like, attack piece, and it looks like it's grown arms and legs, and it's here to stay. So,
I mean, after Richard Tice made those comments, you have written an open letter to him, which was published on The National. Now, you were diagnosed with ADHD and autism as an adult at 24 years old. I mean, your open letter is fantastic. I mean, you basically ask him, I think one quote from it is, you ask him if he's got any sense of human responsibility. You accuse him of having a lack of empathy. And I think my favourite line...
And she's completely correct. Richard Tice has no empathy, unless you're a multimillionaire.
From the whole bit is that you call him an entitled man with a victim complex and a vendetta against the marginalised and the vulnerable. And you recommend he attends therapy. Now,
What's that? I don't think therapy would do Richard Tice any good. I think there is this idea that we are either it comes from nature or nurture particular issues, and I think when it comes to Richard Tice, it's certainly nature there. I think he was born a child with a chip on his shoulder and somebody with nothing but contempt for every other human on the planet. He admires people like Donald Trump because he sees it like a mirror image of himself. But I think the problem here is not about the pettiness, and I don't think it's even the contempt for the poorest in society. It's about making sure that these people don't have the support they need, because they frankly see it as a waste of money. This is taxpayer money that is going to fund poor people. We should actually be giving this money back to rich people. When they talk about people leaving the country, do you ever hear Richard Tice or Nigel Farage talking about doctors or nurses going to New Zealand, Canada, Australia? And why? Do you ever hear them demanding that pay should be increased for these in this sector so that Britain can hold on to these people? This would be a good argument against immigration. Why are we bringing people in from abroad? We should be providing more and more resources for the people who are already here. But they're not arguing for that. They're talking about people going to Dubai. And we're not talking about people who are fundamentally important to society. We're talking about people who started their own, app business or something, and decided, hey, I better move to Dubai where the taxes are lower. I don't care about public service. I don't care about my fellow citizen. I'm going to Dubai. Anyway, guys, we're almost at the end of the stream, so I want to say thank you so much to everyone who came on. Thank you to the moderators for doing a wonderful job. Thanks to everyone who sent a super chat. Greatly appreciated. Before we go, we have our comedy moment, so I hope you will enjoy it. And I will see you on the post-stream chat for a little bit after the show on Discord. If you're a member of Discord, do pop on for a bit if you like. And otherwise, I will see you all on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. So stay safe. Take care and enjoy this before we go.
Colin from Portsmouth is on the line. Hello, Colin.
I am disgusted, Anthony. Absolutely disgusted. Gary bloody Lineker has started
haunting
my dreams.
Sexy dreams, would you say? Probably quite... No.
He was the ghost of Christmas past. He
Yeah.
stood there whispering, "Be kind," and I screamed at him. Not in December, mate. That's the last thing I want to
So you're Scrooge in this dream. That's quite on form for you.
And then, right, the ghost of Christmas present comes barging in, and it's
Yep.
Keir Blimmin Starmer. He was
Yeah.
banging on about bringing us stability, and honestly, it was so boring I fell asleep, even though I was already asleep.
I think there's tablets you can get for that, actually, Colin.
Next thing, in floats the ghost of Christmas future, which
Nigel
was
Farage, probably,
Farage,
yeah.
And it was
Of course it
riding
was,
a
of course it
glowing
was.
pint of bitter like it was a sexy reindeer.
Oh, gosh, that's lovely. What a Christmas thought.
Future that he says I deserve, where Union Jacks grow out of the pavements, all countryside is either golf courses or car parks, and every TV station broadcasts Nigel singing songs about the Empire.
And the lesson was, it was a warning to you, wasn't it, Colin? A warning.
Mate, it was beautiful. I loved it. He
Right,
said,
okay.
all I've got to do to make it happen is to keep shouting into the internet. Anyway, mate, thanks for having me on. Love to the family.
Love to the family and Merry Christmas, Colin. Have a lovely
It's
time.
Winter Festival, mate. What's your privilege?
Sure.
Oh my goodness. So guys, have a great week. I will see you on Friday, same bad time, same bad channel. Stay safe, take care, and good night.